I am a lawyer, but I am not necessarily your lawyer. The materials discussed in this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be deemed legal advice. If you have a specific legal question according to your circumstances, then I encourage you to speak with an attorney licensed in your jurisdiction. Welcome back to another edition of Ag Law Today, and I've got Greg Smith back in the house all the way from Georgia, and we're going to be talking a little bit about federal farm programs. Greg, welcome back to Ag Law Today.
Thank you, Carrie.
Remind our listeners about where you are right now in Georgia and a little bit about your background and your agricultural law practice.
Sure. So I'm based in Bainbridge, Georgia, which is about 30, 40 minutes north of Tallahassee. This is cotton, corn, and peanuts country down here. I am a partner in a farming operation down here, and also a partner with Conger Smith. We're local attorney's office. We specialize in real estate and agricultural practice.
So, Greg, did you grow up in production agriculture?
I did not. I actually grew up in Marietta, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta, and did not ever anticipate that I would live in farm country. But my wife is from a little speck on the map called El Dorado, Georgia. We moved down here in 2013, and I have jumped right in with 2 feet.
Got it. So how long have you been an owner of your own agriculture operation?
So my wife and I have been partners with her parents on their farming operation since 2015.
Cool. And what crops do you guys grow?
So we do, this year we're doing cotton and peanuts. We have done sweet corn in the past, but this year we'll just be doing cotton and peanuts.
That sounds so exotic from a girl who in Illinois and around corn and soybeans all the time. So let's talk a little bit about the Farm Bill, Greg. And I don't know if you know this, but way back in the day, I was the summer between me graduating from Texas A&M to whenever I started graduate school at the University of Illinois, I spent a summer on Capitol Hill. This was in 2002, so everybody can do the math and figure out how old I am. But, Farm Bill was a huge topic that summer on the Hill. And which Farm Bill is our most recent Farm Bill right now?
So the 2018 Farm Bill is the most recent, and that basically is just an update of the 2014 Farm Bill.
Okay. And if my memory serves me correctly, Greg, was it in 2014 that the 2014 Farm Bill didn't get passed until 2015? There was one of them that got passed a whole year later.
That's right. That's right.
So would you say that the negotiations for the 2018 Farm Bill, by and large, went pretty smooth, or I guess at least in comparison to 2014 Farm Bill?
See, I would say so. So the 2018 bill was the first one that I really watched very closely. But from everything that I could tell, it was a much smoother process than the previous one. Absolutely.
So let's just give our listeners just a little bit of an overview of what is the Farm Bill, what is included in it, and why are we constantly passing it? And I believe it's every 4 years. Is that right, Greg?
It's really like a big omnibus deal, and the goal is to support agriculture in the United States, but they handle it through 2 different sides. One is the farm programs, and then the other would be the SNAP programs.
And I'm trying to remember why Congress, because it goes back to a statute. I don't even remember what statute it goes back to. But that requires this Farm Bill to be passed every 4 years. And if my memory serves me correctly, I feel like it's because they have it clumped, because they feel like that's the only way that they're going to get the agriculture community to get things done, if their funding is wrapped into the SNAP programs, the food programs. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has two purposes. Yeah, one is just from a political standpoint. Let's, we'll get everybody on board with this deal where we're gonna have some we're gonna have government payments going to the farmers. In exchange, we're gonna give support to low-income Americans through SNAP programs, and so there's that sort of political side of it. But there's also I think on both ends there's a support for American agriculture, because there's the direct payment, there's the farm programs that are payments going to the farmers supporting their operations, but then there's also the price support aspect of the SNAP program as well on the other end.
All right, Greg, so let's talk a little bit more about the 2018 Farm Bill. What would you say would be the biggest changes, if any, from the 2014 Farm Bill?
There really were not many substantive changes from 2014. There was some expansion of the definition of, get my language right here. So some expansion of the definition of a family member for purposes of determining who can be considered an owner of a farming operation. So there was expansion that allowed for first cousins, nieces, and nephews to be included there. But otherwise, it was pretty much just a carryover from the 2014 bill with a few tweaks here and there.
As it applies to federal farm programs, what do you think are like the biggest things, the biggest issues that our listeners should understand about what the Farm Bill does for federal farm programs? Well,
to me, it creates a sort of counterintuitive situation for a farming operation where, from my standpoint as an attorney, my instinct would be to recommend, if somebody came to me and they said, I'm farming, I'd like to create an entity to be able to operate and to have some liability protection and whatnot. In Georgia, I would recommend that farmer get an LLC. If ignoring the Farm Bill, I would recommend an LLC or something similar to that, something that had some liability protection for them. But the Farm Bill creates this situation where they are forced into having a partnership, a general partnership as their entity rather than an LLC. Mm-hmm. And that is so that they can have multiple payment limitations on the farm program payments that come through. And so, to me as an attorney, that's one of the most frustrating aspects of the Farm Bill is that that forcing of the farmers into the partnership rather than a more useful entity.
Yeah, I agree with you, Greg, and it's so frustrating when people come to me for business planning and estate planning advice. And I don't know if you know Pat Dillon. He's an agricultural lawyer in Iowa. We co-authored an ag law book together. And his analogy is in the estate planning chapter is that business planning and estate planning is sort of like juggling. And at any point in time, certain things are going to be priorities, right? And so for some farmers, sometimes the priority is trying to get the most that they can out of federal farm programs and those payments. So in that situation, of course, you would look at general partnerships, whereas at other points in their life, perhaps other things are higher priority, and you're going to shift that business entity in that context.
Right. I'd agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm going to start using some acronyms now. Ag lawyers love these acronyms. Let's talk about MFP and WIP, WIP. Sure. First of all, what do these acronyms mean and why are they important?
All right. So that's the Market Facilitation Program and the, Wildfire, Hurricane, Indemnity Program. Let me make sure I get that right. There were so many disasters last year that. It's hard to keep up with them.
We're trying to say it 3 times really fast.
Right. Wildfire and Hurricane Indemnity Program Plus is what we have for 2019. Yeah, so those were the 2 biggies, 2 big new programs that came about in 2019 that we've been dealing with down here.
Well, how has it been going? What wrinkles, if any, have you seen?
Well, so the let's see, we'll start with WHIP. So WHIP, that has been very slow going, and WHIP has actually been around since 2017. There were payments that were generated throughout the country through the WHIP program, and that is to cover mostly uninsured losses by farmers throughout the country due to natural disasters. Mm-hmm. And so 2017, they had a number of problems at the USDA in actually getting those payments processed and out, the payments went out, I think, as late as 18, 19 months after the actual losses occurred. 18 has been a little bit better, but still in our area, we've got payments that are rolling out now for losses that occurred October of 2018 with Hurricane Michael. So in that regard, the program has been frustrating to a lot of farmers. But it has been, I think, effective in assisting those farmers, particularly those that were uninsured, had uninsured losses as part of those natural disasters.
So let's talk about AGI limits, and again, another acronym. So what does AGI stand for, and what are the limits there with MFP and WHIP? Sure.
So adjusted gross income. And so like with any of the programs that are being administered by the USDA, they do put AGI limits on who can receive those payments. And for WHIP, for both WHIP and MFP, and we can talk about MFP in a minute, but for both of those programs, the AGI limit was $900,000. So if you have an AGI showing on your tax returns over $900,000, then you're going to be limited out and not allowed to receive payments under these programs.
What have you found in Georgia are the most popular federal farm programs that your clients are participating in, and what issues have you seen specifically dealing with those farm programs?
Well, so PLC and ARC are the big farm programs, the annual farm programs. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So PLC, what is that again? And then
Sure.
the second.
Sure. So payment loss. You're stumping me on my acronyms here. So the ARC is the ARC is more typical in probably in your part of the world, but PLC is much more popular here. So this is ARC is the agricultural risk coverage, and PLC is the price loss coverage. And they're basically just 2 ways for the farmers to measure their basically measure their losses for the year, and to calculate what their payments should be under the farm program.
And how do farmers enroll in those programs?
So they enroll with their local FSA office. We actually have enrollment for 2019 is the deadline is coming up next month, first week of March.
Okay, got it. And that's whenever they have to, fill out, is it the FSA 578 forms where they fill out and they tell the FSA exactly what acreage that they plan on farming and what type of crop that they're going to be farming on those acreage?
That's right. That's right. And they file a new 902, which tells the FSA about what their farming entity looks like, who is participating in the farming operation that year. And then they would also certify to their AGI as well.
Okay. And what cost, if any, is there for the farmer to participate in these programs?
So no cost to them to participate. Other than paying their taxes every year, there's not going to be any cost to the farmer.
Right. And are they required?
No, the programs are not required. It's strictly a benefit to the farmer.
Okay. Is there any disadvantage for farmers to be participating in these programs? Not
that I could think of, other than of course, the paperwork. And I'll say this, not that I know of in our area. In Georgia, there would be little to no downside to participating. I can't say that for sure about other parts of the country.
And I mean, does this also apply to, let's say, a vegetable farmer who's only growing like an acre of vegetables? I mean, is there a certain size that they would have to be farming in order to be eligible? So
this is mostly going to be applicable to row cropping operations. And there are a list of covered commodities. That list does change slightly from year to year, but typically there would not be payments available under ARC or PLC for a vegetable farmer.
For a vegetable. So we're really only talking about, row crops such as corn and beans, etc.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay. And then what has been some of the biggest legal issues that have come across your desk, specifically dealing with federal farm programs?
Well, so oftentimes there are eligibility questions that folks have. The big ones oftentimes will revolve around the AGI issue, and that is applicable to the ARC PLC program, that annual program, but also has been cropping up a lot with the WIP program and the MFP program.
Oh, and we are talking about the adjusted gross income, correct? So with the adjusted gross income, are we taking in consideration perhaps like a accelerated depreciation of assets?
Yes. So this would be the AGI of the warm body within the entity. So the FSA is going to look all the way through an entity, and they're going to find a warm body in the entity, and that's whose AGI they're going to be looking at. So it'll go all the way down to the bottom line there on the 1040.
Got it. And then, I was just speaking last week, Greg, on farm leases, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this statement, but as it applies to federal farm programs, like one of the things that came up in my conversation to these various farmers was that, in a cash rent farm lease, the tenant farmer is not sharing any federal farm program payments with the landlord, whereas with crop share leases, that those payments can be shared. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's right.
And do you recommend, Greg, that people should memorialize that in some way in the farm lease, or is that just sort of understood? It
absolutely should be fully memorialized, formalized in the lease. And actually, for the first time that I'm aware of, the FSA offices are requiring written leases this year, whereas before they would take certifications that a landowner was leasing property. This year they want written leases, and I absolutely would. These farm programs could have pretty hefty payments. I absolutely think that should be spelled out very clearly in the lease.
That is like the best news I've heard all year, that written leases would be required, because I don't know about you, Greg, but I have clients that call me when things go wrong, and then I ask them to send me a copy of the lease, and they're like, it was just an oral agreement. So make my life a lot easier when things are in writing, for sure. So Greg, last question, and then we'll close out. So if somebody's looking for a lawyer, an ag lawyer, and they really want to make sure that that person understands production agriculture, what questions do you think that farmer client should be sure to ask in that consultation to help help see if that person really understands their industry?
Sure. I think it's important that that an attorney have worked with farmers before. I don't think that this is something that somebody can just jump into with just a typical business law background. I think that I think that it's very important that the attorney have worked with farmers and be able to discuss the fine details of a farming operation before they'd be hired.
Yeah, I think it's totally a fair question. If clients ask me in a consultation, have you worked with, similar farms before, and I would answer that question candidly. I'm sure you would as well, Greg.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. And where can our listeners find you? Are you online?
Yep. Congersmith.com, CONGER Smith.com.
Excellent. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.